My name is Kate Brown. I'm 22 years old, living with my beloved grandparents in an upscale, quiet neighborhood of New York. Having graduated from my dream school, the Juilliard School, I'm living a fulfilling life as a professional pianist. However, my journey here hasn't been smooth sailing. From as far back as I can remember, our family had one strict rule: every child must start piano and violin lessons at age 3. This rule was my mother Elizabeth's absolute conviction, and there was no room for negotiation. Mother had dreamed of attending the prestigious Curtis Institute of Music in her youth. When that dream didn't come true, she decided to pass her ambitions on to my sister Sarah, who was 2 years older than me, and myself. Looking back, her expectations of us were beyond reasonable. 7 days of lessons every week. What started as 30 minutes quickly extended to 45 minutes, then an hour. Before I knew it, I could only watch the neighborhood children playing in the park after school through the window of our lesson room. Sarah gradually began to rebel against this lifestyle. Surprisingly, I didn't mind it. I was constantly compared to my sister, always hearing, "Sarah can do this, but Kate." These comparisons sparked a desire in me to someday surpass my sister. Besides, I genuinely loved music. Only once did I ask to skip a lesson. It was when my kindergarten best friend invited me to her birthday party. "Mom, Dad, can I go to Jessica's birthday party this Friday?" I asked hopefully. My father Thomas smiled kindly and said, "You got invited? That's wonderful." His words filled me with joy, thinking I'd be allowed to go. "They're going to have cake and play games." I bubbled with excitement. However, Mother's single response shattered that joy into pieces. "Missing a lesson is absolutely out of the question. Stop this nonsense. Hurry up and eat. You're wasting practice time." "But, Thomas, don't say things that might give Kate the wrong idea." Father quietly looked down at his plate. That evening, I could barely eat half my dinner. Naturally, I couldn't focus during practice either, and Mother scolded me 3 times more than usual. Mother sent us to a prestigious music school's kindergarten program and scheduled private lessons and practice sessions every day after school. Instead of family vacations, we attended New York Philharmonic concerts. Birthday and Christmas presents were always CDs of famous musicians or new sheet music. Our living room had been transformed into a complete practice room, where we spent almost all our time except for meals and sleep. If we wanted to watch TV or read books, we had to reduce our mistakes during practice and finish on schedule. But that was nearly impossible. Still, I didn't find it too painful because I preferred playing piano to watching TV. However, when I was 4.5, Mother suddenly declared, "Sarah is better suited for violin, so she'll stop piano this month. Kate, you'll focus solely on piano starting next month." Her reasoning was, "If you each master different instruments, you sisters can dominate conversations, and it'll be more impressive when you become famous." I had no complaints since I loved the piano, but Sarah preferred piano to violin and was quite shocked. Still, we weren't allowed to voice our opinions to Mother, so we simply had to continue down the path she laid out for us. Mother's favorite phrase at the time was, "You'll perform at Carnegie Hall." It happened one spring when I was 5. I woke up with a sore throat and severely swollen cheeks on both sides. I also had a high fever. Mumps? At this crucial time, Mother was deeply distressed. The national junior competition was just 2 weeks away, and this was pushing her to the edge. But surely you can at least practice if we get the fever down. Mother forcefully brought down my fever with medication and took me to the practice room. She didn't even express concern about my unusual condition, just made me sit at the piano. But I was dizzy, and my fingers wouldn't move as I wanted. Still, Mother just kept shouting, "There's no time left until the competition," and wouldn't let me rest. A few days later, my fever returned. And the next morning, my world changed completely. That's strange. Is Sarah not practicing today? When I woke up, the house was unusually quiet. Normally, I would hear my sister's violin, but not today. Anxiously, I ran down from our second-floor bedroom to the living room where the practice room was. I couldn't even hear my own footsteps on the stairs. With an eerie feeling like something from a horror movie, I opened the living room door. There was my sister, practicing as usual, with Mother watching over her. I could see Mother's lips moving, but I couldn't hear her voice. More than that, I couldn't hear Sarah's violin or the piano at all. Mother noticed something was wrong with me and immediately took me to the hospital. The diagnosis was severe sensorineural hearing loss due to mumps. They told us it was a rare case and treatment would be difficult. Although the mumps eventually cleared up, my hearing didn't return. I could barely hear unless people spoke very slowly and loudly. Conversations with friends became difficult, and worst of all, I couldn't clearly hear the piano I loved so much. I sank into deep despair. But Mother was even more desperate than I was. I never imagined this would happen, but there's nothing we can do now. We'll have to give up on Kate. Mother canceled all my piano lessons with the cold detachment of discarding a damaged product. Even independent practice was forbidden. From now on, I'll focus all my attention on Sarah. Fortunately, we have 2 daughters. If Kate can't make it, as long as Sarah becomes a professional, that's enough. When I heard those words, my heart froze. Though I had more free time now, I found no joy in watching TV or playing with friends. Above all, being forbidden from even touching the piano I loved so much was unbearably painful. The following year, instead of attending the prestigious private elementary school as planned, I entered the local public school. From this point on, I began to be treated as the family's burden. Mother never missed Sarah's school events but ignored all of mine. When parental attendance was absolutely necessary, she would ask Grandmother Martha to go instead. If the family was going to a concert, I was always left at my grandparents' house. Family trips and even dining out became activities I was excluded from. Each time Mother refused to take me, she would unhesitatingly dump me on my grandparents, saying, "Kate would just be a nuisance." My grandparents always warmly welcomed me, trying to ensure I never felt miserable. Grandmother Martha, in particular, began teaching herself sign language and started attending support groups for children with hearing impairments. Eventually, Grandfather George joined in, and they both enthusiastically learned sign language for me. In stark contrast to my understanding grandparents, the divide between my family and me grew deeper day by day. Unable to even have proper conversations, I naturally became isolated within the household. Mother remained obsessed with Sarah's music education, seemingly having completely lost interest in me. However, the event that would definitively change my life occurred when Sarah was 15 and I was 13. Sarah has been accepted to study at the Vienna Conservatory. Mother was in an unusually good mood as she celebrated Sarah's success. Then she suddenly announced, "We'll be moving to Europe in a few months." This was the first I'd heard of either Sarah's study abroad or the family's move. How would I manage life in a foreign country? I wouldn't be able to see my grandparents anymore. Anxiety washed over me. Yet, I felt somewhat relieved by the fact that Mother was still considering me as part of the family. Thanks to my grandparents, I had stopped being so self-deprecating and tried to think positively, telling myself, I'll manage somehow. On departure day, while it was still dark in the early morning, Mother hurried me into a taxi. However, neither Father nor Sarah was there. Though I found this strange, I didn't have the courage to question the rushed Mother. The taxi headed not to the airport but to my grandparents' house. When told to get out, I took my luggage, and Mother suddenly rang my grandparents' intercom. "I'm sorry, but please take care of Kate. There's no point in bringing her along." Mother threw my luggage into the entrance as if disposing of unwanted baggage. "Don't contact me about anything regarding Kate from now on." With those words, she jumped back into the taxi and drove away. Watching her disappear, I felt all strength leave my body. Being deaf, I really was just a nuisance after all. Though I'd been hurt many times before, the despair I felt that day was even more painful and sad than when I lost my hearing. Even after losing my beloved piano, becoming unable to have proper conversations, and being excluded from family outings, I had still believed that, because we're family, we'll understand each other someday. That last hope was completely shattered that day. However, I didn't sink into depression again. That was thanks to Grandmother Martha. I never thought she could do something so terrible. But now you can truly do what you want to do. What I want to do. Yes. Not what someone tells you to do, but what you want to do. But I don't have anything I want to do. It's all right. You'll figure it out in time. Grandmother embraced me with a gentle smile that seemed to envelop me completely. Encouraged by those words, I decided to return to the piano. The keys I hadn't been allowed to touch for years maximally stimulated what remained of my hearing. The vibrations transmitted through my fingertips overlapped with my memories of the sounds. I want to play the piano again. My withdrawn heart began to expand as if awakening. My grandparents quietly watched over me. They found a local music school for me. The new teacher had experience teaching students with hearing impairments and suggested teaching methods tailored to my needs. Practicing while feeling the vibrations was more difficult than I had imagined. But I was happiest about being able to work at my own pace, without harsh demands like Mother's. I decided my own practice time and chose the pieces I wanted to play. Above all, having my grandparents genuinely enjoy my performances became my greatest support. Even if the performance wasn't perfect, they would praise me, saying, "Wonderful." Through such days, I gradually regained my confidence. Life at my grandparents' house was warm and gentle, as if making up for all the unhappiness in my life until then. They seriously considered my future and arranged for me to transfer to a local high school with the help of sign language interpreters. The music teacher I met there recognized my potential. She told me about pianists who were active despite hearing impairments and encouraged me that there was no need to give up. 9 years have passed since then. I'm now in my final year at the Juilliard School. The path to admission wasn't easy, but life with fellow students who love music and share the same dreams has been filled with irreplaceable joy. At university, I challenged myself not only in performance but also in composition and arrangement. Even with hearing impairment, music was never distant from me. Rather, by feeling vibrations and resonance with my whole body, I found new ways to engage with music. When I was abandoned by my family at 13, I felt like I'd been thrown to rock bottom. But now, I can think that perhaps that event was what led me to find my true self. I had developed the strength and confidence to think that way. Then one day, an unexpected visitor appeared. It was Mother. Just like when she abandoned me 9 years ago, she suddenly showed up at the university without any warning. When she spotted me, she approached with a smile that made her look like a completely different person. "Kate, congratulations on winning the national piano competition. I knew you were my daughter." Mother tried to embrace me, acting as if she had been supporting me all along. I instinctively pushed her arms away. Mother looked surprised for a moment but quickly returned to her artificial smile and rapidly said, "I saw you on the news and came running. From now on, I'll support you with everything I have, so let's live together." That unusual enthusiasm sent chills down my spine for the first time in my life. Just then, someone tapped my shoulder from behind. I turned to find my best friend Emily standing there with a worried expression. Emily signed, "Someone you don't know? Are you okay?" I signed back, "This is my mother. But I want her to leave." Emily nodded understandingly and turned to Mother. "She has plans, so we'll be excusing ourselves." At Emily's words, Mother stood there dumbfounded. Unable to understand sign language, she could only stand there, not comprehending our conversation. However, Mother didn't give up. A few days later, she showed up at my grandparents' house, bringing Father and Sarah with her. "We're moving back to New York soon. Let's live together." Mother's tone was still commanding as ever. And behind her, Father standing weakly and Sarah with hunched shoulders hadn't changed from 9 years ago. But I was different now. "I have no intention of living with you." As I clearly stated my intention, Mother suddenly exploded with emotion. "I raised you. I developed your talent." At that moment, Sarah, who had been quiet until then, spoke in a small voice. "Mom, that's enough. We want to live our own lives." Mother became furious and began berating Sarah. Watching this, Grandfather George spoke in a strong tone. "Leave now. Stop tormenting my granddaughters any further." Eventually, persuaded by Father, Mother left. Later, a letter from Father arrived at my grandparents' house. It told us that Sarah had married a musician she met in Europe and was starting a new life, and that he had decided to divorce Mother. "Kate, Sarah, I'm so sorry. As a father, I couldn't protect you at all." I started to write a response to Father's words but ultimately put down my pen. We probably would never meet again. Still, I felt somewhat happy knowing that Sarah had found her own path and Father had chosen a new life. Meanwhile, Mother began appearing frequently at the university and concert venues. Each time, she would claim my success was due to her education and keep saying, "From now on, I will." However, I would no longer submit to Mother's control. As graduation approached, I made an important decision. I decided to move into a new Manhattan apartment with my grandparents. My income as a professional pianist had stabilized, and I wanted to repay them for their kindness.
Oh no.
You don't need to worry about us. My grandparents were hesitant at first. But when I told them, this is what I really want to do, they nodded with tears in their eyes. The night view from our Manhattan high-rise apartment is as beautiful as a starlit sky. Today too, having returned from a recital at Carnegie Hall, I contemplate life's mysteries while gazing at this view. Ironically, I had achieved the dream of performing at Carnegie Hall that Mother had tried to force upon me through my own efforts. Moreover, my performances were highly acclaimed as demonstrating new possibilities in music as a pianist with hearing impairment. Kate, your performance was wonderful. Grandmother Martha, who came to watch the concert, signs to me. Though my grandparents have been going to the hospital more often lately due to knee problems, they never miss my concerts. Every time I hear you play, your music has soul. Grandfather George says proudly. Their words carry a warmth completely different from Mother's constant, be more perfect, and still not enough. Recently, I had an unexpected reunion with Sarah at an international music festival in Paris, where I was invited to perform. There, I found my sister flourishing as a violinist. Having escaped Mother's expectations and begun walking her own path, Sarah's expression and voice were bright and vibrant, as if she were a different person. We were able to celebrate each other's lives and rebuild our bond anew. Kate, I'm happy too. I never knew that playing music for myself could be so wonderful. Meeting Sarah again brought me great joy. However, I haven't reunited with Father. He now lives on the West Coast after the divorce, and occasionally sends emails. Though we avoid meeting in person, we maintain a relationship where we can care about each other's well-being. On the other hand, Mother still appears suddenly from time to time. Recently, she's even tried approaching the media, claiming my education was right. But my heart doesn't waver anymore. Grandma, want to look at the night view? I invite Grandmother, who's relaxing in the living room, to the terrace. Looking at my aging grandparents makes me keenly aware of how precious our remaining time together is. That's why I want to cherish every moment. Hey, do you remember? When you told me back then, you'll figure it out in time? Grandmother nods with a gentle smile as I ask in sign language. Yes, of course. You looked so lost back then. But I believed you would be all right. How could you believe in me so strongly? Because I saw pure love for music in your eyes. Not something forced by someone else, but genuine passion. Her words warm my heart. Now, I truly feel happy. Losing my hearing and being abandoned by my family were certainly difficult trials. But it was because I overcame them that I was able to find my true self. And most importantly, I gained a real family. Blood ties aren't the only thing that makes a family. I've learned that the bonds of mutual trust and support are what make a true family. My name is Kate Brown. I continue to play my own music as a pianist with hearing impairment. And I'm living happy days with my precious grandparents. This is my story. A story of a new life that's still unfolding.